मेधां मे इन्द्रो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां मे अश्विनावहौ पुष्करसजाः आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्कानचक्षुश्रोत्रमधोबलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदम् माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्तु अनिराकरणमस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेयमुपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Hearty fraternal greetings and good wishes to all the brothers and the sisters. Mundakaushika, dejected by the misconduct of his student, disappeared from the city of Mathura in central India into Nepal. He started living a life of penance in Nepal. By the time he was of 30-35 years of age. He went on doing his practices of self-alignment. But in the meanwhile, a program approached him from northwest part of India. A program to set up a school of magic and to train the youth into the science of magic. It was proposed by a school of thought which is called Charvaka. The Charvaka school of thought accepts all occult sciences but denies the omnipresent being whom we call God. The doctrine says that the self is everything and the self liberates itself through control of the body, senses and mind. And there is no such thing as a super self. The self is everything. According to them, the super self is an imposition upon the self promoted by the Vedic seers to keep the scholars humble and to keep them within the bounds of Vedic tradition. The Charvaka school of thought promotes controlling mind, senses and body on one side, and also promotes the freedom of the soul, and in the doctrine of freedom of the soul, they mix up such a freedom leading to anarchism in society. Anarchism unwittingly again leads the students into indulgences through senses. But then a soul which is free should also have its freedom to behave as it likes. It's a school of thought. By this school of thought, they mean greater freedom is offered to humans. On one side there are programs to gain control over the body, the senses and the mind. And on the other side, in the name of freedom, they let licentiousness and letting the energies free into senses, into sex, because a free soul should not be hindered by the rules and regulations. It's like saying, after gaining the needed control on mind, senses and body, one need not subdue the desires that are promoted in oneself. In this program, there is a self-contradictory situation where men tend to be powerful only to fall back or slip back into greater indulgences. This doctrine was promoted to counter the law of Mano Vaivasvata, and it is one of the foremost doctrines of Kali, that man need not refrain from sensuous desires. Man need not bind himself with the tradition, and man need not stay bound. The paradox of the doctrine is, to whom you refer as man? Do you refer to the personality or to the soul? The ancient doctrine is that the soul is imprisoned by personality and the soul needs freedom. For soul to gain freedom, it has to tame its personality. Taming personality is part of yoga practice. Taming it on one side and letting it loose on the other side is counterproductive. Since soul is all in all and is not guided by any super soul, they deny the plan and the universality of the soul and promote anarchism which would disturb the society. A well laid out society with certain regulations imposed is a safe field for every human, that everyone has his responsibilities, everyone has his field of activity, no one exploits the other, and all have their own freedom to grow through experience into the field of the soul. Into that regulated society, when you let the energies of false freedom, meaning freedom to the body, freedom to the senses, freedom of sex, it would only cause disturbance to otherwise settled society. This has been the first input of Kali, and since Munda Kaushika is an accomplished personality and not yet an accomplished soul, in the sense his personality is not yet under the direct guidance, overview and supervision of the soul. Learning occult sciences, gaining the needed powers, it causes an unintended strong will to the personality, and it becomes difficult for such a strong personality to tend to be subservient to the purposes of soul. What is intended is a cooperative personality and a strong soul, and under soul's guidance, soul's surveillance and soul's supervision and soul's direction, when personality is developed, it serves the purposes of the soul. Therefore, the emphasis of the ancient teachings is upon training and taming the personality so that on one side you tame and train the personality, on the other side you inform the original identity of every being as soul. One takes to the identity of soul and tends to train and tame one's personality. If the education relating to the original identity, that each one of us is soul, when this is not imparted, and the sciences are imparted to personality, such personality later becomes a hindrance to the soul for being tamed, for being attuned to the purposes of the soul. That's why grand personalities many times are found to be dangerous to the society unless there is a overviewing soul. Munda Kaushika, by virtue of his desire for magic, has gained the related science and gained many abilities. He can control the minds of others. He can hypnotize. He can cause an animal in the vicinity to move, to act, and even to attack according to his will. If he is in a place like this entire village would come under his influence. Every being in this vicinity, if he intends, he can hypnotize, control and direct that being for his purposes. Such was the ability that he gained. We see in the hotel some nice statues kept here and there in the garden. He can transmit life by identifying with the atoms of the structure, make the inanimate statue into an animate one, and even make it dance. Such is the power he gained. Knowing all these powers, this first school of thought relating to Kalki, it approached him and requested him to train students in terms of magic. And he acclaimed, the school acclaimed him, the Charvaka school, that he is himself a great teacher and he is no less than Krishna, because Krishna was already known at that time as a manifestation of the triple Lagos. He did many supernatural acts. The Charvaka school pepped up the ego, the personality of Munda Kausika and said, "You are no less than Krishna. What Krishna does, you too can do." Munda Kaushika, predominantly being in personality, found the proposal to set up a school as a good proposition for him to transmit the knowledge he has, and then also to conduct his own purposes of fulfilling through the daily penances that he does. He picked up an activity in the objectivity, and in the subjectivity he thought he would continue with his prayers to align with the soul and thereby accomplish. But when the personality program overwhelms the program of the soul, there would be a deviation from the plan. He starts a school, and from northwest frontiers of India, which we call today Afghanistan, many were getting recruited into the school. And even from such northwest countries like Iran, Iraq, Middle East, were coming into this school. Because a school of magic is a great attraction to everyone. While a school of Eightfold Path of Yoga or a school relating to Patanjali was not so very attractive. Truly speaking, even today, it is so. The programs relating to self-realization receive much less response. The programs relating to astrology, astronomy, numerology, programs relating to healing, health, such programs are much more popular than the programs relating to the soul. This is common because men in personality are naturally attracted to personality programs and also for enriching the strengths of the personality. Least it is understood that as one progresses in yoga, during the period from pranayama through pratyahara and dharana, in those stages, all these sciences reveal to the student much more easily than when these sciences are separately studied. In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, you may study sciences in two ways. To see me as the science and study is the soul's approach to science. To see me, meaning the omnipresent one, expressing as this branch of science, an omnipresent one expressing as another branch of science, an omnipresent one expressing in different sciences. The omnipresent one need to be related to in every facet of life, that is yoga. Yoga is nothing but union with the omnipresent one as you breathe in and breathe out. That is yoga. Yoga are not some practices that we do. The very meaning of yoga is unity with the divine. Unity with the divine. The individual soul is in a program of eternal unity with the super soul. So in anything one does, you release a book or you make a book, you make a program of group life, or you live your own life, they are all seen as different dimensions by which the omnipresent one is experienced and to whom we can relate to. Whomsoever you meet, it is meeting the soul first. Later you can recognize the personality. We have a God outside. In His name we live. In His temple we live. Until He opens His eye in us. In His temple He lives. In His name He lives. Verily He lives as He opens His eyes. That's how yoga always speaks of the truth of the omnipresent as many. Associating with that truth, you learn sciences. Then the sciences are easily grasped because you stand in my synthesis, the synthesis of the soul, and learn the sciences. This is the very second sloka of 7th chapter. Stand in my synthesis and read the sciences, then you make your a clear understanding. But if you take science as something different from me and read sciences, one science, another science, you don't gain the synthesis. And when you don't gain the synthesis, the sciences do not reveal them to you or cooperate with you. This difference is always there. That's why the primary program is to relate as disciple to the omnipresent soul which is in him as himself and is present in the surroundings in every form, without exception. This is the Vedic approach. But when you deny the omnipresent and then learn as personalities certain sciences, you are stuck with your own sciences. You do not see the synthesis of all the sciences. So that was the difficulty for Mundakaushika, who has specialized in a science much before specializing in the art of uniting with the divine in all that exists. Therefore, he stood out to be an individual of great dimension, but vulnerable to any personality fulfillment. The scheme that came through Charvaka was appealing to his personality. He therefore accepted the program of training the students and demonstrating them how to control the surroundings, how to control the other beings, and how to gain control over one's own mind through rigorous disciplines. All that he learned from his teacher, he used in a different way with his students. The teacher was an accomplished one, Chanda Kaushika. He was a musician of great order in his times. The student was a grand personality. He had to realize the soul and its relation with the universal soul, and that the very universal soul exists in him as an expression. So in his rendezvous, in his efforts, he is very much encouraged by the thought of Charvaka, and ultimately it led to a point where he challenges Lord Krishna. In the sense, he would like to control Krishna. All this part is available in the book Music of the Soul. So one day he creates, with all his magical and ritualistic practices, he invokes, if he relates to any being, that being must necessarily relate to him. That's the kind of power he has. It's like if I relate to anyone anywhere with a strong mind, the other person immediately responds. This is the power of mind. So he related to Krishna to invite him into a bowl of milk. The intention was to invoke Krishna into the milk and then drink that milk so that Krishna is imprisoned within his being. So with this plan, one day he conducts a very elaborate ritual and then he contemplates upon Lord Krishna So Krishna realizes that there is a scholar of magic inviting him with a strong will. Krishna has understood the plan of Mundakaushika. But Krishna is all love. So therefore when he is invoked, he volunteered himself to be drawn into the bowl of milk. So Mundakaushika, he looks into the bowl after completing the ritual and he finds a smiling Krishna in the bowl of milk. So he feels like this. When you win a point, you say like this. This is the personality. A man with soul would not do such things because he has a different understanding. So all this you see with the players is the personality. So he too made the gestures of personality victory, looked into the bowl, and then Krishna smiled at him. When Krishna smiled at him, something has gone abroad from him for a while. But again he regained himself, he regathered his personality. For a moment, he did not feel himself his personality. Because the smile is such. Similar was the smile that Krishna transmitted to Master Jwalkul to transform through the third initiation, to get in him into third initiation. So he smiled, and then with great difficulty Mundakaushika has regathered his personality and looked at Krishna again in the bowl. He is so magnetic and the very figure absorbs the others. A second look again had similar effect on him, that his personality for a moment disappeared and he was confused. So third time, even without looking into the bowl, he took the milk with the closed eyes, he drank it. As he drank the milk, the energy of Krishna, as it entered into him, has totally absorbed the personality of Mundakaushika, and he remained in a state of trance for a long time. For a long time he remained in a trance, not knowing what has happened to him. When he opened his eyes and recollected what happened within him, he found the kind of bliss which he never experienced before, a bliss that has lifted up the soul from the personality, and from the standpoint of the soul, when he looked at his personality, he realized what a grand act of love that Krishna demonstrated on him. In spite of his attempt to engulf him, Krishna in turn has elevated him. The touch of that love, that act of love, has completely softened the personality of Mundakaushika, and tears started rolling out in great number. He felt, I haven't realized that there is an omnipresent God, and that omnipresence, into that omnipresence as a unitary soul unites with it, gets into it. I never thought that it is like a drop joining the ocean. When a drop joins the ocean, there is no drop consciousness anymore. It is the oceanic consciousness that prevails. So Mundakaushika found himself to be totally in a different identity than before. He was totally absorbed into the soul consciousness and the oceanic consciousness as individual consciousness. And therefore he realized that his knowledge is but a fragment in the totality of the knowledge relating to the soul. He therefore decided not to conduct anymore the school. And he was picked up from then into hierarchy as one of the members. Please remember, Master Jalkot and Saint Germain, whom we call today, they have been through the third initiation by the touch of Lord Krishna in the same year. It's a matter of 2 to 3 months difference, or even a month's difference, not more than that. To Master Jalkot it happened in that year in the month of Sagittarius during the full moon hours, and within a matter of a couple of months it happened to Saint Germain. So these two have been transformed into adepts during the life of Lord Krishna, while Lord Maitreya and Master Maurya and Master Kuthumi accomplished the state of being, to accomplish that state of functioning as souls with the help of Eightfold Path of Yoga, even before Krishna came to be in the physical shed. That's why those three are said to be earlier initiates, and these two are said to be later initiates. First is the triangle, then it has become a pentagram. The three have become 5 with these two joining, who mostly do the field work. The field work is done by the activity of Saint Germain and that of Master Jalkot. Both are equally active in humanity. In human affairs, Count Saint Germain is as active as Master Jalkot. Many came to know due to the writings of beloved Madame Bailey, through whom he expressed himself. Otherwise, who would have known Master Jalkot? But for the writings that came through Bailey, who had known earlier about Master Jalkot? Nobody knew. But Saint Germain was earlier known in Europe. The knowledge relating to Master Jalkot, one of the ancient initiates on the planet, came to us, to the larger section of humanity, through Bailey, even during the Blavatsky's time. The name Jalkot never came out. There were only 2 names that were known. 3 names. The world teacher Lord Maitreya, Master Kuthumi and Master Maurya. Only that part is known. The name Jalkot has come out through Madame Bailey. Master Jalkot and Count Saint Germain, they have been colleagues. They are the ones who went through the third initiation in the same year by the touch coming from Lord Krishna. And Lord Maitreya received the touch from Lord Krishna to be the world teacher. And he received the plan. Lord Maitreya not only received the plan, but also that extraterrestrial ethereal body which is called the white robe. It came from Krishna to Maitreya. From Maitreya, and Maitreya is the custodian relating to it, that white robe. That white robe was created by the Vedic seers through sounds formulating five elements which are far superior to our earth. It is that body which is lent to Jesus later to do acts of healing and of teaching, which is now clear to us through the writings of Madame Blavatsky. So Count Saint Germain joined the hierarchy in the very beginning of Kali Yuga, like Master Dwapara. They are great generals, I would say, to implement the plan on the physical plane. Saint Germain has preferred to work more with the West, and while he is not prevented from moving all around the planet, his work has been more expressed in the West. He was there, for example, as Shamuel in the Jewish system, a great prophet, Shamuel, the judge, who ruled for long years, who established a great order. And even today we have the Samadhi of Shamuel near Jerusalem. You can experience the presence of the Master Saint Germain if you go to that Samadhi. It is one of the ancient manifestations of the work of Shamuel is the work of Saint Germain. As you all know, among all the initiates or prophets or the judges in the Jewish system, he was the last one. Thereafter there was the system of king and the prophet came to be, and he ruled for long years, established great order, and was a very powerful prophet who had all knowledge and could lead the community of Jews in a fairly good way, and that was the time considered as the golden time among the Jewish culture. His Samadhi, where his body was laid, is around Jerusalem, and even today it vibrates well. In fact, though not informing all these details, I took our group to the place of Shamuel in Jerusalem, and even before I did it, I have myself gone a few months before, along with our sister Efrat. She guided me. We went and I felt there the energies relating to the Master. And today it is a common knowledge. Even before I visited this grave, this knowledge that Shamuel is one of the incarnations of Saint Germain is already there. You find it again through Google, uncle. There are articles written about it. It is one of the manifestations of work of Saint Germain. And much more important factor is that the Master took a second time he took birth in the community of Jews as Joseph, the father of Jesus. As father of Jesus, he played a great role, which is, for purposes of religion, kept hidden. Joseph was a grand master at that time, a master of, say, fifth initiation and beyond, and according to a plan, he was to take birth in Jewish community to receive a soul which would eventually turn out to be a global initiator on the path of love, that is Jesus the Christ. Joseph took birth in the Jewish community with the sole purpose of proffering body to yet another soul which is in a great journey, in a great pilgrimage. And Jesus was earlier, during the times of Joseph's schools in Nepal, he was a student. This is also evident from the events that we note in relation to Indian history, some of which have been narrated by Master E.K. in his book on Music of the Soul. Joseph was a student in the school where Munda Kausika was running the school of magic. He was called by a name at that time, and that name is again revealed by Master E.K. in his book in Music of Soul without saying the connections. And the student who joined the school came to the school with a flute with him. With that we can look to music of the soul and find his name. His name is Chitrabhanu. He comes with a flute to the school of magic because he comes from the subcontinent of India and flute was his hobby to play upon. Likewise, Maria also was a student in that school which Munda Kausika has run for some time. Maria was a student, the future Blavatsky was a student, and then Jesus was a student. Then you can see what is the contribution of Joseph in terms of these great beings like Maria, Jesus and Madame Blavatsky. They were all colleagues in the school of magic that was set by Munda Kausika in that land today which we call Nepal. The touch with these students continued thereafter for Munda Kausika, whom we today call Saint Germain. So this Saint Germain was born in Jewish community with a specific purpose of giving or proffering body to a high soul which has to do grand deeds on earth. And he has also chosen Maria as his lady, who was in far earlier incarnations, was his student. In the book of Music of Soul, you find the name as Pratichi. Pratichi means the western energy. Prachi means east. Pratichi means west. So, the name that she had at that time was Pratichi. Pratichi was student of the Master, of whom we speak today. Jesus was the student, Blavatsky was the student, and there were a few other students. And only those who are already publicized, only those names can be spoken, though not all the names. So therefore, the student, you remember when we speak of the times when Jesus was born and the school which we ran much before, there is an interval of 3,000 years. That's why I said yesterday, from the standpoint of discipleship, we do not really count a period of 30 years as anything. It is no doubt harsh to say when we are celebrating 30 years of work tomorrow, I say today that it means nothing. It is not to belittle the work. It is to see it in a bigger dimension. The bigger dimension, as is understood today, is it took for souls like Maria and Jesus to take to third initiation in 3,000 years. 3,000 years. So if one has taken a third initiation in one life, like Master Jwalkur or Munda Kaushika, what could have been their effort preceding to that in that period of another 3,000 years? Only a life which takes to third initiation is preserved by nature. Those that go through the third initiation are those who are born again, meaning they transcended death. The stories of such ones are preserved by nature. And Maria already was an initiate of third degree by the time she joined Joseph. Joseph was already an initiate of fifth degree. He went through 5 initiations. She went through 3 initiations. Imagine that kind of energies when they are together. What kind of soul can be conceived? To conceive a high soul, it requires a very high energy in terms of the parents to that soul. Therefore, Joseph played the role of father and Maria played the role of mother. And the concept of Immaculate Conception is mostly misunderstood than understood. Mostly misunderstood than understood. That's why they say Maria is a virgin, Joseph had no role to play, and Jesus came to be. This kind of theories come out of utter ignorance. It's only ignorance that prevailed all these thousands or 2,000 years about Immaculate Conception. The star that came into Bethlehem is the soul of Jesus that entered into the baby which is that imposed itself upon the baby which came out of the womb of Maria. When the soul impresses itself after its delivery from a lady's womb, it is called Immaculate Conception. Meaning, the lunar part of the soul grows as a baby in the womb of the mother. The solar part remains normally on the head of the father. And in the case of initiates, the soul aspect imposes upon the grown-up form of the baby when the baby is delivered from the womb. Then it is Immaculate Conception. But for all other humans who are mortals, it joins the womb in the 7th month of the womb, the 7th month of the pregnancy. Therefore, from 7th, 8th and 9th month, these 90 days in the womb, every soul suffers the hell of the womb. It's a different dimension which I narrated as early as in 92-93 and is recorded in the teachings relating to Kapila. How Immaculate Conceptions happen, how normal conceptions and deliveries happen. Jesus is no doubt immaculately conceived in the sense his lunar dimension grew in the womb of Maria, who was one of the purest women that were available at the time. Even today when we think of Virgin, we think of Maria. Such is the high degree of purity of the lady who prepared the body of flesh and blood, upon which there is the imposition of the soul of Jesus to cause the Immaculate Conception. Jesus and Mary consciously brought out Jesus, and they played a great role. And both of them were initiates. They knew the plan. They knew the plan relating to incoming Jesus. They also knew the plan relating to John the Baptist. And they consciously handed over the child Jesus at Jerusalem to a trader who comes from Nepal again. He comes from Nepal. Which father would give away his son to a trader to be trained further in the east of the globe? When Jesus was taken to the temple in his 12th year, the purpose was to hand him over to his colleague who comes from the east to take him to the east for further training. Jesus was trained by Master Jwal under the guidance of Master Jwalpur from his 12th year to 30th year. I have recorded all this during the last 3-4 years in a book which is being published in Telugu. In due course of time it will come in English. Joseph trained Jesus and John the Baptist even while during their childhood. Joseph was not just a carpenter. He was a great teacher of magic and was functioning in the magic schools which were there in the Assyrian borders of that time. He was also a musician of great dimension that was also participating in the magic schools of Egypt. He was having very frequent visits to Egypt, to Assyria, and to the borders of Jewish land, where he continued his work of training students into the science of magic. He taught much to both of them. Since Jesus had a greater dimension to perform, he was entrusted to Master Jwalpur, who came in the form of a trader to Jerusalem. The boy was entrusted to him and he was taken to India, where he very quickly, in 6 years' time, accomplished in all the universities that were present during those times, like Takshashila, Varanasi, Pataliputra and Ujjain. In 6 years he learned the entire theosophy as is being taught in the universities in those days. By 18th year he was a great scholar and was also a threat to the local teachers and pandits. Thereafter he was shifted from the mainland of India into Nepal. And in Nepal there is still a school of Master Saint Germain. It still exists. It exists right from the time it was started 5,000 years ago, but not visible to the ordinary. He was taken into that school and there he was trained once again by Maria and Joseph, but in a different dimension. Maria and Joseph being accomplished initiates, they were functioning in two different bodies in two different places. They were functioning in Nepal in the magic school, where students are trained in terms of the science of magic, and they were also living in the Jewish land, Israel, as we know. There he was, for the first time Jesus was perplexed to see his own parents with a different glow, different illumination, different dimension. For a while he feels, are they not his parents? Until his education in the magic school was complete, he could not really clear the puzzle. When his convocation was done, at that time the three present themselves, Master Jwalpur, Joseph and Maria and reveal themselves to him and the plan relating to his work and the purpose of his life. Later he was taken into Tibet, Jesus, by Master Jwalpur and trained further. And this is not our theme for the moment. But Joseph's role in the life of Jesus is very, very predominant. He functioned not only as the teacher for Jesus, he was not only as father for Jesus, but also his main teacher. Ultimately, Jesus has been entrusted with the secondary master, Master Kuthumi. But then the predominant teacher to Jesus, whom we worship all over as the Son of God, the major teaching education has come to Jesus from his father, who is also a great initiate. This dimension remains a secret because it takes some more time for people to realize these dimensions. So Joseph trained him and guided him, and even while Jesus came back to Israel, from time to time he guided him. Much was the guidance coming from Joseph to Jesus in his work in Israel. And when Jesus comes to Israel, after learning in the Himalayan ranges, the first thing that he does, he was directed by his mother Maria to go to the grave of Shamuel. He goes to the grave and then prays there, because Shamuel is worshipped by any well-meaning Jew as embodiment of light, a complete knower. So when he meditated there, he realized again that it is no other than his father. And anyway, he was reinforced by the energies of Joseph. Later, Jesus conducted great acts. But there is a background for this dimension of Jesus relating to magic. So thus, Saint Germain took birth as Shamuel, he took birth again as Joseph. He also took birth as Plato. And he, as you all know, he took birth as Francis Bacon before he came to be Count Saint Germain. The preceding incarnation of Count Saint Germain is that of Francis Bacon. Francis Bacon's life also is a life of mystery. He was himself an alchemist. And his death is a mystery. And many believe that he also attended his funeral, and thereafter he has gone to Transylvania. That much is recorded. But it is in Transylvania, which is part of Romania, where again Saint Germain emerges. And no one knew when Saint Germain was born. Nobody. Suddenly, one day, people find and he claims that he is a prince of Rakuj. And there are two elder brothers to him, he is the third one. And there were many stories that were afloat about his birth. And he was even called an illegitimate child of the queen. But he rejoices rumors about him. He never reveals himself. And people keep afloat variety of rumors and he rejoices them. This is his dimension. Being a seventh-ray master, a master of magic, a master of masonry, a master of ritual, there is always a mystery around him. He is very mysterious. From the day he took his third initiation till today, he always appears as a male person, extremely well dressed, and is of the age group of 49 years. If anyone says, "May we know your age?" he says, You cannot count it by years, he says. Cannot count it by years. If someone in close circles asks, could you be up? Why are you always around? You appear to be of the age of 7 times 7, 49 years. What is the secret of it? He says the entire secret is hidden in this number 7 times 7. So I therefore prefer to be of that age at all times to come. He stopped growing, he is never aging. That's the case with all adults, unless they decide otherwise. He stopped growing, that's why one of the titles that he has is a saint that never ages. A saint that never ages. And he gives extreme importance to one's own appearance. From head to foot, he is very orderly. Very, very, very meticulous. From head to foot. You can't point out in his appearance anything even slightly out of order. Nothing is out of order. Even by his appearance, he sets orders to the energies of the people who look at him. And he is always exquisitely dressed. He does not believe being casual in his dress. Because he expresses perfection up to the ground, up to the seventh place. To him it is not enough if one is excellent as soul, but not so very orderly in his personality. That's not his cup of tea. The way he walks, the way he dresses, the way he appears, the way he handles things. It's a treat to watch even for the members of royalties. And each time he wears a dress with diamonds which were never seen before. Like we have these buttons, He used to each time he appears, he is with a different set of diamonds. And such diamonds were never seen before. He is known to be of extraordinary caliber in eliminating the dirt in the diamonds. He can make every diamond completely clean. And he has, to say in a lighter vein, he has a weakness for diamonds. We cannot say that with a master of wisdom, but in a lighter vein it is said, it is rejoiced in the higher circles. When he comes, the people are engaged talking about his dress, the diamonds that are put on, the style of the hair. All that we know about him is a very poor image of Saint Germain. Very poor image. The very fact that the pictures do not carry the eagle nose itself is clear that it is some other image projected as his image. Eagle nose is the major means to identify him. In case if you find anyone with an eagle nose and a 7-footer, completely well dressed, far more in gait than an emperor, you can say it is Saint Germain. Such was his what you call the dignity that he displayed. And he was always moving around the royal families of Britain, mostly of France and of Italy and Austria. These are the 4 countries in which he was frequently moving in Italy, from Italy to Paris, Paris to London, London to Vienna. In all these places, when he appears, when he disappears was not known. He suddenly makes his presence in a group. And many times it was noticed that he presented himself in 3 different places at the same time. He presented himself in 3 different places at the same time. Though he participates in the feasts and parties of the families, the high families, no one ever saw him drinking anything or eating anything. He never eats in congregations, he never drinks in congregations. What he reads, what he drinks is generally not known. But it is known in very close circles of his associates that even during those times he was a strict vegetarian. A strict vegetarian. See, this vegetarianism is but the fundamental principle in hierarchy. And what they eat is not the kind of vegetarian food that we eat. It is far more subtle than that. Pythagoras, we know, was a vegetarian and was insisting upon vegetarianism to be his students. That was around 500 BC. So no wonder that Saint Germain, he shared that information, that this much I can share with you, that I am a vegetarian in the strictest sense of the word. More than this, I do not share the information because it disappoints you. It disappoints. And he used to prepare for the delight of the ladies. For the delight of the ladies, he always used to prepare a drink. If you take a peg of that drink, the ladies stop aging for some time. So you can imagine how the ladies in the royal families in all those 4 kingdoms, how much he was appreciated for his jewelry and for his ability to clean the diamonds and for his ability to prepare this drink and give that drink. And which lady would like to age actually? No lady likes to age, isn't it? They fight so much against aging. But he had that special drink, and it's a mysterious drink. It's a mysterious mix of many natural juices by which he prepares a drink that doesn't let you age. So naturally all the lady following was with him, even in the royal palaces. The kings were a bit jealous of him for many reasons. Though there is no anecdote about his misbehaving with ladies or ladies misbehaving with him, he was a great charmer. When he gets into any group, the ladies and the males were alike charmed by his presence. That was his charisma. So this drink is another speciality coming from him. And he is only one among the adepts who demonstrated writing with both hands. He writes with both hands with equal proficiency. You cannot say that this is written with the left hand and this is written with the right hand, the papers. He takes the pen and starts writing with the same speed but different text. Can we do it? We can't. First. When he tried, when one hand is at work, the other hand at other one is not easy. We are people in whom the two hands function as one hand only. If someone is drinking coffee, it's a common joke. In the olden days, when these wristwatches have come to be, if someone is drinking coffee, if you wish to be mischievous, you have to ask him what's the time. So when he looks at the time, the coffee, the other hand also turns and the coffee falls on him. But engaging two hands in two different works, engaging two hands in two different works at the same time requires extra brains, additional brains, multiple brains. Master Kuthumi speaks of multiple brains. With one brain you are unable to work, but in our community, souls work with multiple brains, multiple tasks, multiple works at the same time. Another beauty relating to his writing is, it is so calligraphic, beautiful. With all the cursory writing it is called. Today we engage specialists to write upon certificates in the cursory manner. But both hands have that ability, number one. Number two, he can write two different articles with two different hands at the same time. That's another dimension. Another beauty is he starts writing with the right hand and with the left hand, and as the page concludes, the lines conclude, both hands conclude at the same time at the end of the page. That's the speed. Then one more dimension is what is written on the left side, its continuity is there on the right side. That means if you have to write an essay, an article, you start writing from one side and he knows when this concludes. So the rest of it he starts writing on the other side at the same time. How could it be done? So no wonder people were amazed at his talents. And he was a poet himself. A poet. He could write a lot of poetry. And a musician. Once in a royal court, when someone is playing the 7-stringed lyre, smilingly went to the person and said, "Let me play." The person has given the place to him. He started playing on the 7 strings and people were taken into trance. They did not know what happened to them. A few minutes after he stopped playing, people came back into their senses. He was such a poet, such a singer, such a player on the instrument, and a painter. There was no art which was not mastered by him. In Venice, once he meets a small child from the royal family who would eventually be the queen-to-be. When she was of 7 years age, she was dabbling upon paper to draw something. So at that moment, the master enters. He tells how to draw, and taking her hand into his hand, he made her draw a very intricate picture. And that picture was very popular in the royal circles. Then again, when that young girl was of 81 years age, one day he appeared to her. And he looked at the person and was perplexed. She was perplexed. Because the one who taught him drawing, that the image of that person is with her. When she was 7 years of age, the person who drew was of middle age, meaning around 49 years. Now again, when she is 81 years of age, she sees a man of 49 years standing before him and smiling. Then the man, he said, there was a young little girl who wanted to draw a picture, and a man came to him and helped him to draw the picture, and he described all the details of that picture, which was drawn 74 years before. We don't remember what we have eaten yesterday. We have to recollect. Then she was perplexed. Then she said, there was a person by name Sanctos Germanos, known as Prince Rakoji. Are you his grandson? She asked. The old lady asked him, are you the grandson? When she said that, then he revealed how he worked with her when he was a child. Then she could not believe. She said, it's impossible that you are so old when I was so little and so young, and you remain to be the same while I have grown to be of 81 years age. How could it be? And all these are recordings. All that which is contained in the internet, when you Google, is all proved information. It's not some hearsay. What I spoke about Munda Kausika is, to some extent, is known only in some very close circles, but not in publication. But these are all in publication. So he was moving between Vienna, Rome, Paris, London, and Venice. In all these 4 royal families, he was one of the close members. He was conducting diplomacies and ensuring that these kingdoms remain together. And he was trying to neutralize differences that could happen. And he was cautioning the royal families of all these kingdoms that unless they relate to the common people, the kingdoms would fall. He was very concerned about it. He was informing the royal families that they do not hold in their conscience the living conditions of common people in their own kingdom. They are so far away from the realities of the citizens of their own kingdom. He was regularly cautioning them. And the kings relied upon their ministers, their cabinet, who never had a clear understanding of what is generated amidst the common, a kind of dislike growing and growing and growing to the point of hatred against the kingly families. For about 3 decades he regularly warned. 3 decades. He said, unless you change your ways, unless you relate to the problems of the people, unless you work for their welfare, you do not deserve to be any more kings. And in later years, he went to the point of expressing that there is a lurking danger for him. He prophesied the French Revolution. He also prophesied the horrible death that the royal family met with through the French Revolution. When there was no heeding to his advice during that time, he decided to shift his activity more to the American continent. Today we somehow concluded at whatever time is available today, that is what we deliberate upon the Master, and that's already some good information for all. And the whole effort is to relate to the Master and gain his presence. It is he who is responsible for Napoleon's victory to build and the dream of one Europe. One Europe has been the great vision of the hierarchy long ago. It's not today. Still we are fighting in the European Union, retaining our individual national identities. But entire European community is one from the standpoint of masters of wisdom. It's one race, one community. You may have different tongues, meaning languages, but you are one. To this one Europe was an attempt that was made through Napoleon. And Napoleon was guided by Master Saint Germain from behind. And most of the time he was appearing in the Palace of Mirrors, we call it, or Versailles in Paris. And he was also appearing in the bedroom, in the chamber, where Napoleon sleeps during the sleep hours. He was visiting between 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. That was the time. Please note, even for you, there can be excellent visits coming from higher circles during that period of the night between 2 and 4. That's the time, according to the readiness of an aspirant, there his guide meets him and impresses him, and if the aspirant is fairly advanced, he would even have conversations with his guide. Between 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock, in the bedroom chamber of Napoleon, the Master was giving his presence and guiding him from time to time. And it is he who is responsible for all Masonic structures that are brought about in the city of Paris, in London, and in Vienna, and in Rome. These cities were built in cooperation with the energy of Mahachohan by Master Saint Germain in this age, that is after Christ. That's why Paris, London, Rome, and Vienna continue to be greatest energy centers as far as Europe is concerned. Though they may today be metropolis of very high materialistic activity, the very formation of the cities is according to Masonic order, and most of the old structures, they have very high dimensions of masonry. And he is the master mason, as I said. And he ran many schools, secret schools. Even today he runs most of his schools all over the planet, in the southern parts of every nation. This is his specialty. He believes in the southern parts, and that's where he is relatable to Master Jupiter. He holds his ashrams in the southern parts of the nations. Because south represents the heart, and in another dimension it represents the Mooladhara. Therefore, that's where he works. The ashrams ethereally are available in as much in Europe as in America and in Asia. But the activity is much more shifted to the western continents after the fall of kingly rule in Europe, because the commoners who came to be, they also tended to be men who were hungry for power, and many things happened thereafter. And till date it is only the hunger for power that he is driving people to hold to the governing places. In spite of this, in Vienna, the presence of master is there. In Rome and Venice is of particular interest to the master because of his association with arts. London is of particular importance because he has a deep liking for appropriate rule and governance. It is for this reason it is said by Master Jwalkul, only when the Great Britain gets into balance, only then there is the change of balance and a neutrality prevails on the planet. Once the energies in Great Britain come into order according to Master Jwalkul, then the big nations like Germany and France make a triangle with it and form the future balance of power on the planet. The English, the French and the Germans together would make this step. This is how it is written in the Destiny of Nations, which you can see yourself. So coming back to the point, the great cities that are built in Europe, they are all built according to Masonic understanding, Masonic proportions. That's why even if you are in a four-road junction in a city like Paris and close your eyes, you gain enormous harmony in you, because that's how they are all built. And there is a lot of symbolism relating to astrology which is displayed everywhere. You find horses relating to Sagittarius, you find lions relating to Leo, you find water carriers relating to Aquarius, you find eagles, you find so much. Every astrological sign can be found displayed appropriately on buildings in different parts. The visit to Paris or visit to Vienna or visit to London must be a pilgrimage. If you wish to be a 7th grade student, to experience the energies that are implanted in all these great cities, you should go to their center and make meditation over there. It is one of the duties entrusted to the New Age disciples. And so also it is in Berlin. Berlin was most favored city for some of the masters of wisdom to neutralize the imbalance of power. There are many dimensions which we cannot go on describing, but suffice it to say, the great cities that vibrate in Europe since over thousands of years, say since from 10th century and onwards, they are all on account of the Masonic knowledge which is given by the master to his students in the temples. He is the source for the birth of the temple of Masonry, the Oriental temple in India. He is the source for the Jerusalem temple. He is also the source for the Royal Temple of Great Britain. These are the famous orders that we have in Masonry. But the esoteric dimensions are not available in the so-called Masonry, which is filled with strong-headed personalities. But Masonry is as much alive in the subtle plane as it was at one time on the physical plane. The master, it is said, was accompanying Christopher Columbus. He accompanied Christopher Columbus to ensure that he does not go to India but goes to the other continent on the other side. It's a plan that was steered by Saint Germain. During those times of 15th century or 16th century, all were inclined to take to the sea and find the India which was the golden land at that time. So Christopher Columbus also started his journey to find India, but was driven by an inspiration to the far west to find the American continent. And Christopher Columbus was himself a great devotee of Jesus Christ. The story of Christopher Columbus is worthy of reading because he gave a great opportunity for humanity to migrate to the huge continents of South and North America, where today majority of European community live. Majority. This is a minority. And the master started much work in South America and North America ever since. There is a fresh rooting of Masonic work in the land of magic. America, even from ancient most times, known as a land of magic. There were Mayans there, Incas there, and there was the activity of magic prevailing in ancient most times. And the entire western coast of North American continent and Southern American continent pervaded by Rocky Mountains, Andes Mountains. They all belong to the magic land of ancient America. That's where you have Peru also. The master has ashrams in South American continent and North American continent. In the South American continent, his ashram is in Andes, and is known to be the Mount of Penitentes, meaning a place for penitents, those who do tapas. And in the North American continent, in the Monument Valley or Valley of Spirit, his ashram continues to be active. It is from these ashrams the activity of the violet flame emerges for the entire globe for the last 333 years. In 2008, when I gave to our groups the violet flames, it is only to commemorate 333 years of seventh ray work which the master has carried out mostly in the American continent and also in other places of the globe. It is he who drove the liberty movement in South and North American continents. He is the man behind. It is his disciples who won freedom for the migrant Europeans who claim themselves to be Americans and not Europeans. All those Europeans, the early migrants, today if you tell them that they are essentially Europeans, they just reject it. It is not only not accepting, but they reject it. Such is the magic that happened with them, that they call themselves Americans. And among them, the valiant ones were all picked up by him and trained in terms of masonry. And for the United States of America, the liberty or freedom came from colonialism through the advanced disciples of the Master. George Washington, many of you might be knowing, is a Mason of 33 degrees, meaning a Grand Mason. That's why among all presidents his name remained as the name of the capital city of the United States of America. He is the disciple of Master Saint Germain. Also Abraham Lincoln is a disciple of Master Count Saint Germain. And then when you come to South, we have Saint Martin who liberated Argentina from the Spanish. And then Don Pedro, another disciple who liberated Brazil from the rule of the Portuguese. And then Saint Bolivar who liberated the upper part of South American continent from the imperial rule of the Spanish. The imperial rules in South and North American continents were set to an end through the energies coming from Master Count Saint Germain through his disciples. And that's where the movement of liberty and freedom, which is but the quality of the seventh ray, has come to be in the American continent. Today, Count Saint Germain's name is a household name in America, more than Jesus the Christ. You utter the name of Count Saint Germain, they are all inspired. He is the master for the entire continent of South and North America. And he has been conducting the work ever since. And he moved from Europe over there after French Revolution, because it takes time for Europe again to get back into order. In the meanwhile, the new land, which is the land of hope and of great experiment, that's where the Master is functioning in both the continents of America. But that does not mean he is not working in Europe or in Asia. He works wherever there are groups who believe to work in rhythm. If groups of people in multiples of 7, 3 times 7 at least, if 21 persons constitute themselves into a group and conduct a common rhythm between them, the Master is present to lend his support for their upliftment and for reorganization of their energies. He builds with his, the aspirants can build their own personalities into Solomon temples. A temple where the threefold sun can function. He works at the individual level, at the groupal level. His key number is 7. He works with number 7. 7 members coming together can form a temple. 7 planes within us, 7 centers coordinating with each other, transforms this human body into a temple. We can build individual temples, we can build groupal temples, we can build temples through which a lot of energy can be supplied to the community, and this activity is very active, though not very visible in the present day world. The moment you walk into subjective side of your own being, you see the grandeur of the work of violet flame in you. It is through violet he presents himself, through number 7 he presents himself, and the color is violet, the number is 7. The form is an orderly shape, any orderly shape. To relate to Saint Germain, you can take to a pyramid, you can take to a sphere, you can take to a square. These are the 3, meaning the cube. A cube, a sphere and a pyramid. He is easily attracted because these are perfect figures. Through any act of perfection, the energy of the Master gets stimulated in us. And those who care to set an orderly life for oneself, for his family, for his group, for his nation, if you have that intense desire, he is ready to cooperate, though in a subtle manner. The Master is very eminent and very present, and I feel that today, I have been giving talks to the groups in Europe right from 1987, or if not from 83. Never have we had the occasion to speak about the count in Europe. While I spoke many times in South America and also in North America. I feel that it is the will of the Master that resulted in picking up this theme of relating to Count Saint Germain in this group life during these auspicious solstice hours. So may this be taken as a blessing, and may we relate to him. Relating to him that means that in anything and everything you shall set order. If you have to keep a spectacle box like this, you cannot keep in any way you like. If you have to keep the books, you cannot keep in any way you like. There has to be an order. Order has to prevail even in the minutest activity relating to your life. Only then magnetism prevails. If there are books, bigger books and smaller books, which book should be over which book, there is an order. You cannot keep small books down under and big books over them. It's the other way around. And anything that you use shall have to be spick and span, clean, shining and orderly. The Master does not accept you otherwise. He wants that you take the spirit of order in every single, simple, minutest event, so that the related magnetism manifests there. And he is completely against anarchism, because he knew what it was when he cooperated with anarchism before his third initiation. The Master allows not even the slightest disorder. If you are to work with him, you should know how to sit. You have to sit with your back erect. You would not, and as far as possible, to sit in right angles. It's a very, stringent discipline that. How you keep your hands when you sit. How you move your hands when you walk. In everything there is an order. There has to be order in your physical movements, in your speeches, in your work, in all that you do, because order is the basis for the creation. The nature is in such order, the planet is in such order, the solar system is in such order, the whole universe functions in such order. By that order you are known to be a follower of the Master, whom we know as the Holy Brother, Sanctus Germanus. This is he uttered. It came out from his mouth, Sanctus Hermanus. Herman is German, and you are all Germans. Herman means brother. Sanctus Hermanus means Holy Brother. You may call me as Holy Brother. And since I am Prince of Rakoji, you may say I am Count Saint Germain. That's how the Count has come to be known. And he will be more and more known as one turns subjective. The only one call that I give to every group member everywhere is, please turn subjective through prayers. The path to light, the path to knowledge is only through the contact of light within. Until and unless you contact the light within, you cannot open the doors into the world to know and thereby to fulfill yourself. Therefore, let us turn inward, get into the subjective side of our being, where you contact the light, the first light that you encounter is seemingly blue, but it is violet. Seemingly blue, but it is violet. Once you are in touch with the violet or the subtle side of our being, then many doors are opened for you. Therefore, the inner work starts with the violet color or violet flame, and the violet flame sets order in you. Until order is established in oneself, not much light gets revealed from within or from without. So may we note this and make a convergent effort, a one-pointed effort to turn inward, to find the light and to move forward with the help of light that guides from within. May that be so with all of us. And we conclude this talk. We have a pause for about 7 minutes. We gather here to do our prayers. Thank you.